Okay, so this is another deck build. Firstly, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that has watched our Riki deck build and our Spirit Charmer deck build. You guys have shown a lot of love for those videos, and it's made me really excited to show you probably one of my favorite archetypes which have come out in recent years. Well, this year actually, which is Mutant. No longer TCG exclusive. I know the OCG just got this announced in an import pack, something like that. But I wanted to just do a deck build because this deck is interesting. There are some highs, there are some lows with it. It can struggle a little bit with inconsistency, but I feel like the build that I've given this really thrives in consistency and being able to get out its go-to boss monster, and I'll explain why this boss monster is so great. I did want to start off by saying that this is a casually competitive pure build. You're not going to see triple Ash Blossom, triple Infinite Permanence, Bulbasaur, Link Karibo, all the generic stuff which we mentioned at the start of the videos. You're not going to see any of that. You're going to see as pure as possible Mutant deck profile, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you. So I'll get into it now. Just wanted to preface because I know a lot of deck builds that you see out there when you're, looking for a Mutant deck build or any kind of deck build for that matter, you're going to see a crazy extra deck. But what you're going to see today is a Mutant extra deck. We run 3 copies of Mutant Synthesis. Mutant Synthesis is quite average at best, in all honesty. I'm not a big fan of Synthesis. It's not too big at 25. The only reason why you would summon this is because when it is fusion summon, you do get to destroy a card on the field, which is good. But the other reason is because it's a level 8. And the reason why that is important is for its actual boss monster, which is a playset of Mutant Ultimus. Mutant Ultimus is what makes this deck viable. This card is insane. Any card that has a true Omni Negate, so if your opponent activates a card or effect, that's the best kind of Omni Negate. It's fantastic. So you can negate the activation, but not destroy it, you banish it. And that's the strongest thing about Ultimus. Usually when you've got an Omni Negate, like a Borreload Savage, where it negates it, or something where it negates it and destroys it, your opponent can bait that out and work around it. But Ultimus is really powerful because of that banish. If they bait it out but forget that it actually banishes after it's negated, then it actually puts them in a tough spot. So your opponent has to really think about having to deal with Ultimus. So Ultimus, 3,500, huge. Omni Negate, it does have a floating effect to get 3 mutant cards from your banished zone to your hand, which is good, decent. But really is the Omni Negate and how strong this is. And obviously it needs 3 level 8 mutant monsters, which is Mutant Synthesis. It's weird how Mutant Synthesis has it doesn't compare to Ultimus at all. Mutant Ultimus is the reason you play the deck. And this build that I'm about to show you is to get out Mutant Ultimus as quickly as you can to make sure that you've always got a 3,500 boss monster with an Omni Negate on the field that banishes after it negates. It's absolutely insane what Ultimus can do, and it's the reason why so many people are excited to run this deck, and I think that's where the potential is for it. So I'll get into the main deck now. We run playset of Mutant MO5 and a playset of Mutant ST46. These two are the heart and soul of the deck. They're the backbone, whatever you want to call it, the most important card in the deck. It's these. So you absolutely run these at 3. Mutant MO5, when it's normal or special summoned, search a mutant monster from your deck to your hand. Mutant ST46, when it's normal or special summoned, add a mutant spell or trap to the hand. So these two combo perfectly with each other. These two are a must play. Any kind of deck where you can search is phenomenal, adds consistency. But the reason that these two are so great is because of their secondary effect, which is exactly the same as one another. And it really is what separates this deck from so many other archetypes. Being able to tribute ST46 or MO5, it tributes itself, banishes 1 card, so monster, spell, or trap from face up on the field or your hand, and then special summon a mutant monster from your deck or hand, depending on the card that you banished. So I will go into these later, but basically the way these read, if you tribute this and banish a monster, you can special summon Mutant Beast, banish a spell, special summon Mutant Mist, banish a trap, special summon Mutant Arsenal. And these are kind of the boss monsters of the main deck, which is really neat. Because Synthesis is so kind of subpar, has decent protection, honestly, but not really being able to do anything else but be a 2500 beta is kind of disappointing. And I know this is obviously the go-to, but we do have main deck boss monsters, and these are how you search the cards, and these are how you get them out. The fact that these do everything that you need in a main deck is insane. So absolutely run these at 3, and I'll show you some of the main reasons why you run these at 3. The next main deck monster, which is okay, is Mutant GB88. I run 2 of them. You can run 1. I think 1 is pretty good. I definitely don't advise running 3 because this card just isn't like ST46 and MO5. MO5 and ST46, like I just give them so much praise for what they do in the deck. GB88 kind of doesn't assist in doing that at all. So what this does is if it's special summoned during your opponent's turn, you contribute this card, banish 1 card, and special summon 1 level 8 mutant monster. Similar to how this does, but the fact that this has to be special summoned during your opponent's turn is really frustrating. You can quick effect special summon it if you control the field spell, but it's just it doesn't help combo. It's very situational. Like I said, you can definitely just run 1. I run 2 because it's not bad. It just doesn't help the same way that the other 2 cards I just showed you. The reason why this is good is because you can unexpectedly put a boss monster on the board from the main deck where your opponent now has to figure out a way around it. So the reason is, and I'll go through the boss monsters because they're actually really, really fun. We run 2 copies of Mutant Arsenal. We run 2 copies of Mutant Mist, and we run 2 copies of Mutant Beast being the best one. So, reason I run 2 of each is because you definitely don't want to replace it of each. These will brick. They can't be special summoned except by the effect of a mutant card, so you can't Monster Reborn it. You can't really cheat it out any other way unless you really want to tribute summon it, but you definitely don't want to do that. But what makes these so exciting? So if you, like I said, with ST46 and MO5, banish a monster, summon Beast, banish a spell, summon Mist, banish a trap, summon Arsenal. These are really fun because these are the interaction cards that you have in your opponent's turn when you really don't want to have to force GB88 to make those plays. So if you tribute and special summon any of these all have specific effects. So this can't be targeted by monster effects because we used a monster card to basically get this out, is the way these work. But what is great about Mutant Beast is it's a spell negate, and it actually banishes as well. So very, very similar to Ultimus, except it's specifically spells. Mutant Mist, if your opponent activates a trap card, you can banish 1 card from your hand or field and draw 2. So there's the draw power. Doesn't negate traps, which is a bit disappointing. Mutant Mist probably being the worst of the 3. But still quite strong at 2700, where Mutant Beast is only 24. So Mutant Beast is quite good. You can wall up a bit at 29. Arsenal is really, really good. Obviously, 3k is extremely strong. And if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can banish 1 monster on the field. So these 2 are really, really strong. The fact, and they're so easy to get out as well. Like I said, like these just, you can easily get MO5 and ST46 on the field in the same turn, pretty much all the time. So you're always going to be able to get, I'd say, these 2 out. Depending on what you're playing, you can maybe get Mutant Mist out if you need the additional draw power, or you just need something a little bit stronger than Mutant Beast. But these are the options you have in the extra deck, and they're really, really fun. Obviously, these 2 being the go-to. They're all level 8, so these will be the targets to get out Mutant Ultimus and Mutant Synthesis also being level 8. We have loads of targets to get this out super, super consistently. The reason, like I said, don't run these at 3 because they do brick. I've seen people run Mist at 1, Mutant Beast at 3, and play around with these ratios. Definitely don't run each of these at a playset because I guarantee you they will brick and you'll have a really, really rough time. But I think two's the good ratio because if I open up, say, a Mutant Mist and I need to summon a Beast from the deck, or better yet, I open Beast in the hand and I have Beast in the deck. And this is the only monster I have in the hand that I can really tribute ST46 off, and I need to banish a monster. I'll banish Beast, and I've got another one in the deck to summon. So it's the reason I run two, just in case I open, I need to banish one, I'll always have another in the deck. So those are the reason I run the ratios, but very, very fun main deck boss monsters for sure. Last monster in the deck is Nemesis Keystone. Nemesis Keystone is a very, very interesting card. So you can target one of your banished monsters, except itself, special summon this card from your hand. If you do, shuffle that target into the deck. So that effect is very, very situational. I very rarely actually going to get this off, but in case, you do have, these boss monsters and they're all banished and you actually need one back in the main deck, this can recycle it, which isn't bad at all. But the main reason we run Nemesis Keystone is to kind of fix the one big glaring issue that that mutants have. Mutants are so resource intensive. To negate, we need to banish. To get draw power, we need to banish. To banish, we need to banish. To get any of these effects out, we need to banish. And generally, it's going to be from the hand. I'd say 9 times out of 10. So we are really, really struggling with resources. Nemesis Keystone, its second effect. During the end phase, if this card is currently banished and was banished this turn, you can add this card to your hand. Sounds simple, but that is extremely useful. The best main deck monster we have, boss monster that is Mutant Beast, because it's a spell negate. Spells are so prominent in the game today, where Beast being able to negate and banish a spell card is extremely, extremely strong. But we find having to banish cards from the hand is really rough, and we specifically need to banish a monster from the hand or field, but generally it's going to be the hand. If we open Keystone, we can banish Keystone to summon Beast from the deck, and in the end phase, Keystone's going to come back, and we've got another one. If they get rid of the Beast in our turn, or in their turn, sorry, and it's back to our turn, we have another card to banish from our hand. It just constantly recurs itself. It's material to just keep getting Beast out when we need Beast, and if it is both copies of Beast are just banished, and we need one of them back in the deck, Keystone can do that. You can run this at 1, you can run this at 2. I definitely don't advise running it at 3 because it really isn't anything more than just a means to maintain resources in the hand. But run this at 1, run this at 2. This is actually a really, really good tech card, I think, for Mutants, because this deck really, really struggles with resources in the hand. And the fact that our best main deck monster we can continually get out with Nemesis Keystone is extremely powerful. So that'll do it for the monsters. For the spells, we run playset of Trade-In. Discard 1 level 8 monster, draw 2 cards. Very, very simple. But the fact that we run all these level 8s, we have a lot. We don't want them in the hand. We'd rather them in the graveyard. And I'll show you why later. And draw power is really hard to come by. Trade-In is insane. You can run this at 2. I don't ever feel like this bricks at 3. So I definitely advise at least running 2. But obviously, for the draw power is insane for this deck. Next one we run, which is a bit controversial. I've seen in many, many different builds. I run a playset of Mutant Fusion. Basically, it's just a poly, except it banishes the targets, which is actually quite bad, but Nemesis Keystone could come in handy there. But the main reason I run Mutant Fusion is for the fact that I always, always, always want Mutant Ultimus on the damn board. There is never a single turn where I don't want Mutant Ultimus on the board. It's a phenomenal boss monster. And if I'm only relying on some of the other cards in the deck, which I'll go through, and only running this at 1 or not at all, we're not going to get Ultimus out every turn. It's just not going to happen. So it's basically just our inbuilt poly. We can search it, which is really, really good with ST46. But another interesting thing is if we if it's our turn and our opponent activates a card or effect in our turn, we can use cards from our deck and graveyard, one from each. So that's actually really, really strong. If we haven't drawn into any of our, main deck, these aren't on the field, because it can be a bit hard sometimes with how this archetype's built to get all of these out on the field. Being able to use these material from the deck and the graveyard is really, really powerful. And our opponent's always going to be activating effects in our turn. It's just the name of the game these days. And then it helps with trade-in. We can just pitch one of these to the graveyard if we've got it in our hand, draw two, draw into Mutant Fusion. This is now live in the graveyard. The only reason I run it is for consistency. The fact that we want to see this out every single time as quickly as possible, whenever possible. That is the reason I run Mutant Fusion as a playset. Next card I run, the field spell Mutant Evolution Lab. Mutant Evolution Lab is a really, really, really good card. Artwork is a bit funky, doesn't look like a field spell at all, but it is. What this card allows us to do is special summon a level 4 or lower mutant monster from our hand or face up banish. So basically the play is we would summon out Mutant MO5 if we open Evolution Lab, summon MO5, search out ST46, activate Mutant Evolution Lab, special summon ST46, and that would then search us. If we want to go into Ultimates, we don't already have Mutant Fusion, we'd search Mutant Fusion or whatever we really need, whatever kind of play you're going for, because mutants do allow you to kind of play in a way that you're wanting to play. That's the main reason why, because we can special summon any of our ST46 or GB88, not GB88, ST46 MO5, but it does allow us to special summon GB88 from our hand during our opponent's turn if this card is in the field zone. It does have a couple other effects. All of our monsters gain 100 attack for each individual mutant card that is banished face up, which is okay. It does add up, especially when we look at our boss monsters like Arsenal is 3,000 attack, for example. Ultimus is 3,500, so this could very quickly go, to 4,000, 4,500. It is very, very underrated, that effect. But its third effect, and I think Tyler and I always say any field spell that has 3 effects is really, really good. The other one this has is once per turn, we can pop any of these cards from our hand, bottom of the deck, draw 1 card. So if we open, something like this, but we open with a Mutant Evolution Lab, we play Mutant Evolution Lab, just put this to the bottom of the deck, draw 1 card, and it could be something that we really, really need. So Evolution Lab just kind of helps drastically with consistency and can provide a little bit more firepower if we need to beat over something, with a beat stick, essentially. Now into more of the one-offs. Terraforming, obviously, I just said how great Mutant Evolution Lab is. We want to see it in our hand as soon as we can, and we'd rather not have to force it with ST46 to search Mutant Evolution Lab. So Terraforming, obviously, it's only a one-off currently, so I've definitely run that. One Monster Reborn. Now, if you remember, I said that we can't special summon these mutant ones only with the effect of a mutant card. Monster Reborn isn't for these. It is for these ones. Because we always want these to get their effects off, whether it's someone from the hand, someone from the graveyard, someone from the banish, doesn't matter. Monster Reborn is just a means to kind of always get any of those out. So simple as that. You can also get Ultimus if you need. 1 copy of Emergency Teleport. So the amazing thing is our smaller ones, the backbone of the deck, ST46 and MO5. MO5 is a level 2 Psychic, and ST46 is a level 3 Psychic. So perfect targets for Emergency Teleport. If we don't open up any of those 2 cards, but we open up an E-Telly, activate the E-Telly, get the effects, start going off into your combos, as simple as that. Run 1 Salvage. So because these are so important and we can't always draw into them, and they're not actually searchable otherwise, if these are in the graveyard, Salvage will just get them back from the graveyard to your hand, and then you can start going off in combos again. I definitely don't advise running this at 2 because it will brick. And generally, if we're comboing right with our main deck, we generally shouldn't need the graveyard too much, but Salvage is, I guess, insurance is the best way to put it. Last spell is a copy of Gold Sarcophagus. Gold Sarcophagus just works in perfect tandem with our field spell, Mutant Evolution Lab, because if we don't open up, say, ST46, but we really need ST46, we would Gold Sarcophagus, banish the ST46, activate the Mutant Evolution Lab to special summon the ST46, start going into our combos. That's all that this card is in here for, just to help consistency. That's all it is, because we really, really want consistency in this deck. For the traps, I adore this trap, Mutant Expansion. Basically, when it's activated, we can special summon a level 4 or lower mutant monster, or we can add it to the hand or special summon it. We're going to special summon it. That's the goal. Any kind of way, that's why we run this, that's why we run playset of Mutant Evolution Lab. We want to be able to special summon ST46 and MO5 as much as possible, because we want to go into our combos. If we can't go into our combos, we're kind of screwed. You can't play mutants. So that's what this card is for. I don't need to go into anything much more with it. It can special summon GB88, and then you can use its effect, but generally this is just going to be for ST46 and MO5, just for consistency's sake. I run it at 3 because I want consistency in my deck. Next one, which is quite common, you will see 3 copies of Mutant Cry. Mutant Cry is the other fusion card in the deck. So as I showed you before, Mutant Fusion is the one that we're going to use all the time to go into Mutant Ultimus. Mutant Cry is interesting. It's not often you see a trap fusion, but it is so strong. So during the main phase, fusion summon 1 mutant fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling fusion materials listed on it into the deck from among the cards on the field, in the graveyard, or face up banish. So everywhere that we've used, Mutant Cry can use as materials. So we would use this in our opponent's main phase, obviously. It's the only time we can use it. Or our main phase, but obviously if we're going turn 1, we can't activate it. But it allows us to go into Ultimus. We would use our trade-ins. We would use whatever we need to banish. Mutant Cry is a phenomenal card. Definitely a 3 of. I know triple Mutant Cry and triple Mutant Fusion can be a bit much, but like I said, I need consistency in a deck like this, where the only search power I have is ST46 and MO5. I need consistency. So Mutant Cry is a phenomenal card. It allows us to always go into Ultimus if we don't have Mutant Fusion. Almost finished. Heavy Storm Duster, Backrow removal. We don't want to get solemned. This is, whenever people go up against mutants, this is obviously the one card we're going for, especially if we're running it pure like we are currently. 1 solemn on the Ultimus and we're kind of screwed. So before we do anything, we want to activate the Heavy Storm Dust to get rid of any potential nasty Backrow. The reason I don't run Twin Twisters is because the only reason we run Nemesis Keystone is because we suck with card advantage and managing resources. It's just so damn difficult in this deck. So we don't want to discard anything, ideally. Obviously, trade-in's the one exception because we get to draw 2, but run, Cosmic Cyclone, Galaxy Cyclone, whatever you want to run. I just don't advise running Twin Twisters where you have to discard for cost, because this deck, if we're comboing hard, we're going to regret it because of the hand resources. Lastly, which you can kind of take out for anything, I run triple Solemn Warning. Solemn Strike's obviously the best of the Solemn cards. It's just a bit pricey, so I just run Solemn Warning in here. Just always nice to have to get rid of that tricky monster. If our Omni Negate's already down, or they're about to summon a Dragoon or something that could be problematic, or just something which can just beat over this easily, have a Solemn Warning ready. And it you can never go wrong with it. Solemn Strike, obviously, the best of the 3, but you can take these out if you've got some other interesting cards to run. But I feel like this is the best and most consistent build that you can get with mutants. Really, the name of the game isn't to have too much variety with mutants. There's kind of enough variety in the deck already with its main deck boss monsters, where you can banish a monster, where you can negate a spell, where you can draw cards off mist. You have an Omni Negate. It's a super fun, consistent deck, and I feel like if you're not building this consistent, then it will struggle. And if you're not thinking about hand resources or field resources, whatever it is you're using to get these effects off, then you're actually going to find yourself very, very far behind. So I've built this in mind. A, as pure as possible, but B, really, really trying to find that middle ground where we can combo heavily, but still maintain resources to keep going. And that's really the name of the game with Mutants. If you can do that, then you're actually going to have a really, really good time. So that's about it for this deck build. Not as unique as the Spirit Charmer deck build we did, but there are some interesting tech cards like Nemesis Keystone in here, which I feel help one of its biggest flaws if we draw into it. Yeah, that's about it. If you are a fan of basketball, we do have a basketball channel with a weekly podcast, which is the Low Block. So go ahead and check that out if you want to support us. And we'll be doing another deck build soon, and we'll be doing a TCG podcast very, very shortly. So, subscribe, leave a comment if you want us to do a particular deck or got any interesting tech cards for me to try out. Definitely let me know. Thank you.